Welcome into 11 Personnel, a holiday edition of the show presented by Moncello Bank. I'm Nick Rush. He's Adam Luckett. We're in Florida and in Ohio for a little remote holiday edition. Is it golf weather there? Because it is a little chilly and windy up here in, I guess I'm center. I'm in like middle west Ohio, where the wind. It comes in and rolling a little bit colder off the plains. How's it feeling down in Greater Jacksonville, Mr. Luckett?
The Ohio Plains, a lot different than Brother Hugh Plains, I'm sure. But yeah, it's like 72, 75 degrees here. It's supposed to get up to, I think, 77 tomorrow, but the rain's in the forecast, unfortunately. And around New Year's, it's going to get down in the 50s and 60s. So we're going to have, unfortunately, I think, similar weather to when Kentucky was here, Jacksonville, North Florida, last year for the Gator Bowl. So I think when Ole Miss and Duke come to town, they're not going to have the best weather here, but can't complain. So it is what it is. We'll roll with the punches and just going to try to enjoy some time down here, Nick.
Is golf in the forecast?
Golf will be in the forecast around the New Year's, so I'm going to get to play a round to start off 2025.
Nice.
They say the first round you play of the new year will dictate how your next year goes. So next episode I'll give you an update about how this next 360 plus days is going to go for us after I play this round of golf here at Stillwater Golf Club in North Florida.
I hope you shoot them straight, Mr. Luckett. They'll shoot you straight at Moncello Bank, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel, where they're going on 129 years of business around the Commonwealth of Kentucky, serving the community, getting the best deals for you, whether you just need some place to stash your money, do a little personal banking, or shopping for rates. I know people are putting houses up on the markets, getting them ready for the new year. Interest rates are dropping. And Moncello Bank, they'll have you covered. They're members of the FDIC, equal housing lenders, and they will take care of you. Moncello Bank, it's where people matter. Go ahead, check them out online, nbcbank.com. You can bank mobilely in Ohio or Florida, or wherever you may be, with the NBC mobile app. We're big fans of Moncello Bank. You should be too. Check them out. 129 years of service. Just go ahead. Give Moncello Bank a call. Stop on in today. Moncello Bank, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Luckett, I'm currently sweating out the under here in this Oklahoma Navy game. We can't have overtime. Overtime is where unders go to die. So hopefully we can get this under home, because the Christmas Day, the gambling wasn't too good for your boy. But we're not giving out picks. Maybe we can talk. We can give some of our bowl season leans later on in the show. You're muted, by the way. You hit the mute button.
We'll talk about what's ahead this weekend. But for me, Nick, I was on each side of the best two individual performances we've seen in bowl season. Dylan Edwards, and I was on Harold Fannin, the tight end at Bowling Green.
Dude,
Neither side covered.
They don't have player props.
Kansas State ran for 8 miles and did not cover 6.5.
Harold Fannin had 220 receiving yards, and they couldn't win as 10.5-point favorites. They lost as 10.5-point favorites.
I actually got them at 7.5 before we saw that crazy line movement. I guess I was part of that well activity.
You moved it. Some sharp money. Get them. Let's go.
So I was highly disappointed that all of that played out. And only me would play the Steelers as a dog in the games they haven't covered as a dog this year. I mean, I played them against the Eagles. I played them against the Chiefs. Didn't cover in either, but I was on the Ravens, and that was probably the easiest NFL cover of the year.
Yeah, there really was. I had the same plays as well. The Steelers too, which I guess is just what they do now. They just melt down in December. You'd think that, like, okay, they've lost 2 straight. They're back at home. Tomlin will get them right, and then they're just throw the ball to 14. Give it to George Pickens.
They're giving off true great bad team vibes right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating, but I can't say it's totally unexpected. The back half of the schedule is loaded. So really, we're coming down to hey, if you beat the Bengals in Week 18, you play the Texans. Like, you need to beat the Bengals so you can get the Texans in that first round. That at least can help you get that playoff monkey off your back and get to the divisional round. Because my goodness, that AFC South.
Yeah, the Texans are sinking fast. My Bengals are still alive. Need a lot to happen, but we're not dead yet.
Not dead yet. But the NFL
just get me to week 18 alive, and then stuff happens. So get me to week 18 alive, and let's have some stuff happen.
The NFL, as bad as it's been, the bowl games have been incredible. They've been as silly as you would want. I mean, Pat Narduzzi last night, like
just unbelievable. Just unbelievable game management.
We don't have,
with a backup quarterback.
We try to keep it, PG around here, but total shit for brains, Pat Narduzzi. I mean, my God, what are you doing, man?
And then like sitting there and kneeling and holding hands on every play. I was just like, why didn't you just kneel and hold hands from the 1 yard line? And just give it to that big ass tight end, that NFL tight end you got in Wildcat. Let him run up in there. It makes no sense.
It's 4th and 1 in the second overtime. They need a touchdown to win the game, and he chooses to kick a 19-yard field goal to go into a 2-point off from the 3-yard line. What? How? What in what world is that good decision making?
And then they do that, and they were just thoroughly outclassed in the 2-point off. Toledo had dudes wide open. Other than that one play where Gleason did the Joe Burrow where he kind of climbed the pocket, jumped, and found a guy.
Yeah, that was a cool
wide
play.
Open.
Yeah,
but they were just getting dudes wide open. It's like, what was he thinking? I don't understand that. You've got your 4th-string quarterback out there. Just go for it, man. I did love that play call out of the Wildcat though on that 3rd down before he kicked the field goal.
Yeah,
got a tight end, a defensive tackle, and they
Uh-huh.
just kind of leaked the defensive tackle who's at fullback, leaked him out. He was wide open and just bad. Just
Threw it over his
what a
head.
better throw there. Yeah, threw it over his head. But that was wild. I mean, what are we doing here, bud?
That game was awesome. A bunch of back and forths. Like you had a pick six by a fat guy help spark a 10-point comeback in the 4th quarter to set up all the overtime chaos. And then in the game later on that night, we were talking about before you go off air that it was one of those games where you turn your head and you're like, all right, I'm going to watch the NFL game for a minute. And then Kansas State was down, 2 scores? And all of a sudden they're up 2 scores? You're like, wait.
They were down 17 at one point, yeah.
You're like, how did this happen? I mean, it was the bowl games, like, I know we are kind of in the minority here, but, like, just this part of the week where you just kind of want to be lazy. Like, it's so great to just have football on in the middle of the day on a Friday and watching 2 random teams with a bunch of random players playing go at it. I mean, it's pure joy. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, I like football. Therefore, I like to watch football games. And so the more games, the merrier. People just need to realize what these bowl games are, and they are very much kind of just glorified exit. They're better versions of spring games to me, essentially. And so you just have to enjoy them for what they are. I'm for more of them. Can we play more of them? One thing interesting, though, I think is going on that you're seeing.
Yes. I think
Shadur Sanders is playing.
Yes.
Cam Ward is playing.
Jalen Milroe's playing. Travis Hunter.
To me, there's got to be some type of financial component involved in all of this for these guys to play. I think you're seeing that play out, and you're seeing some more. Like, you've seen some opt-outs, Nick. Like, Louisville's got 2 of them. 2 big ones, Ja'Cory Brooks and Tyler Shuck. But a lot of these guys, I think, are playing, and I think that's probably part of their NIL deal was to get them to play. And most of the opt-outs are just guys who have just left the team, portals.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, like Deion Sanders mentioned that they had disability insurance, like they had big insurance packages for those guys.
Kyle McCord's playing tonight for Syracuse.
That's a big part of it. But yeah, really, your opt-outs are now just for portal reasons, and they are much more significant than the couple there that we had previously for NFL draft reasons, right? Like Washington State's playing Syracuse and McCord in the Holiday Bowl, and they got like half their coaching staff's gone, like 20 players. Tyler Mateer's going to Oklahoma.
John Mateer,
John Mateer, yeah. So like, there's a lot happening, and I mean, now Oklahoma, they've converted a fourth down. They're across midfield with like 40 seconds left, and I just know we're going to go down to a last play. And I mean, for the love of God, if Brent Venables chooses to go for it in overtime instead of 2, if they score, I'm gonna lose it.
We might get a 30-yard Hail Mary here that goes out of the end zone. Pass.
a little Joe Milton special.
Yeah, that could definitely be in play here. But overall, I just think you got to take the Bulls for what they are. I enjoy them every year. They're not serious football games. If you just look at them through that prism,
yeah, they're fun.
They're very enjoyable.
Yeah, they're just sit back, relax, and enjoy them. Maybe we'll give out some picks later on in the show. But let's start with some of the latest Kentucky football news. Luckett, I think the biggest news that we kind of it's weird. You've got like 2 pieces of news out there that are just kind of hanging around. And one of them was Vince Marrow in North Carolina. The other one's Brock Vandagriff and his future, where I just don't think we're going to hear anything about Brock. Like, I'm wondering if we're just going to show up at spring practice.
Spring roster. When we get to spring roster, that will be the news. Whenever they release the media guide.
Because the odd part about it, too, is it's not like this big, well-kept secret, but nobody's just willing to go out there and report it. And I don't know why his camp doesn't want to say anything. I don't know why UK, like, I just don't know why the hesitancy to just not say anything. Maybe if we just don't say anything, it'll just go away.
You remember Mark Stoops said either before the Louisville game or after, around that time, he said him and Brock had a long conversation about what he's going to do, and he said, I'll let him say or publicize it. So he just has never said.
He just doesn't want to do it, which is a little, I don't know. Brock's a different cat.
It just is what it is. It is what it is. When we'll get to what it's going to be when they open spring roster. I mean, we'll just have to wait on it till then.
The other bit of news was Vince Marrow's, the report from Football Scoop about 12 days after the initial report that there were talks between Marrow and Belichick's camp to join his inaugural staff at North Carolina. And then Football Scoop said, it's not happening. Vince Marrow is staying with Kentucky. And Luckett, I don't know about you, but when there wasn't any report, like when things didn't happen within 48 hours or so of that coming out, it's like, why would you get Vince if you're not going to get him early on in the portal, right? Like, that thing simmered around long enough where I didn't think that he was going to leave. Now, early on, it felt very real because no reporting was coming from the Kentucky side, like almost every one of Vince's flirtations with other jobs. And then the other part of it too is it seemingly checked enough boxes to where you thought, okay, this is a good enough landing spot where it would make him, like, it would be enticing enough for him to leave. So while I thought it was legitimate initially, when we got a week into the portal and teased with recruits on campus, I know you like to say you got a job until you don't have a job, but at the same time, it's like it felt pretty clear that he was staying at Kentucky.
Yeah, I think number one, the biggest thing to point out here, and it's why I'm always skeptical of what was the flag there, Nick? I see you. Defensive holding.
Defensive holding, yeah.
So they're going to get 2 or 3 throws in the end zone here. Well, with the Marrow thing, this is great. I'm sure all you all listening on podcasts are just thrilled knowing the results of this Oklahoma Navy game. But the thing with the Marrow thing, he's the number 1 paid tight ends coach. What's he make? $1.3 million?
Something like that.
So if you're going to hire him, I think you would at least have to get there. So are you willing to pay him $1.3 million? And I think a lot of teams probably aren't, and that Kentucky values him, I think, more than the market.
God, wow.
Reasonably.
In the end zone with 6 seconds to go.
You're a little ahead. You're play ahead of me here.
Oh,
so
man.
I'm watching it right now.
That's
Do they go
brutal.
for 2? But at the end of the day with Marrow, that's just, to me, that's it. Like, he's more valuable, I think, to Kentucky than he is to almost probably every other college football program. And so he's coming back, and we found out today he's in on a big portal target for the Cats. That would be a big-time addition, in my opinion.
I thought that they would maybe, because, Belichick's doing this on the field, off the field sort of deal. I thought it would be like, you manage You be our high school GM. You manage our high school recruiting, and Venables is going for 2. Come on. Oh, that's what I'm talking
The
about.
anti-Pat Narduzzi.
Oh, no. Now we've got, all right, Navy's calling a timeout. Okay, this is good. I got it at 43.5. So win, loss, or draw, I think we're good here. Knock on wood, right? Like just go for 2. Don't kick the. We cannot go to overtime. All right, we cannot go to overtime. I love the decision too. Also, like just freaking go for the damn thing.
Well,
But
do you really want to play if he gets to 2 points? Do you really want to have to try to stop an option offense from the 2-yard line?
no, of course not. And even then, like playing from the 35 at end, do you trust your offense whatsoever? So thrilling podcasting we've got going on right now. But I think if Vince was your director of high school operations, that would be a role that if he's getting paid less, I think would make sense for him. But then he'd also have to consider like, could he still use his Ohio connections in North Carolina? I think to an extent, maybe not nearly as effectively, but it at least made sense on the surface, which is why I think he considered it, but ultimately decided to stay at Kentucky. Hawkins drops back, and there's the pressure, and then he's sacked. Game over. Navy wins. Navy wins.
Onside kick coming up.
Oh man, the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. You got to love when the Armed Forces are sure as hell going to win the Armed Forces Bowl against a blue blood. Do we call them blue bloods? Or is that just a basketball?
Yeah, that's fair. I think Oklahoma would be a blue blood football program, so that's fair.
I know this is a little unusual for our podcast listeners, but I hope you can understand the joy from us right now. Because let's be candid, we're doing a lot of year-end reflection stuff for the website. It hasn't been fun doing the show a lot of times over the last few months, so we're having a little fun today. We're shooting the you know what. Maybe you might enjoy some cold libations later on. It's one of those weekends. Are you having your Saturday where you're just going to sit back and just watch games all day and drink cold beers?
Yeah, we're gonna go to a local sports bar here and watch the Bengals game Saturday afternoon. So,
oh man, and there's 8 bowl
enjoying
games.
that.
8 bowl. Oh, whew, that's gold. What?
Three NFL, 8 bowl games. It's gonna be a fun Saturday.
Oh man, that sounds like a great time. You know what you should do, like it? You should download the Prize Picks app. Put in promo code KSR. When you play $5, you're gonna get $50 in Prize Picks bucks in your account, just like that. Terms apply. Promo code KSR. prizepicks.com. Make $5 in plays. You get $50 loaded into your account to play the best daily fantasy sports app out there. It's great. You go around, you choose your squares more or less. And with so much action happening right now, like, on Christmas Day, it was a half point for Luka, which I think they needed because he ended up getting hurt in that game. That was a tough missed cover. But whether it's NBA, NFL, college football, you just pick a player square, more or less, and you'll let it ride with Prize Picks. It's the best daily fantasy sports app out there on the market. Download it today and get it on the action with Prize Picks. I'm loving it because there's just so many games happening. It's so great. It's like we're getting a second round of Christmas, a second wave where mention the 8 bowl games and then the 3 NFL games. Then you're going to be able to play some Prize Picks with the second round playoff games. I know a lot of people were disappointed with the first round. I just enjoyed the heck out of them. I mean, I know we learned that home field advantage is important. For me, I think just a lot of this, if you had true seeding, it would be avoided. But the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the ACC, to get them on board, you had to guarantee those auto spots. So I think that kind of messed with the seeding this go around. Whenever they change it up next time, I think they're just going to truly seed it, and that should make for some better games.
Yeah. There was a lot of outrage. Was this on? Did this happen on Selection Sunday? There's a lot going on, so I wasn't really locked in on Selection Sunday. Was there this outrage on Selection Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yes, and it's the people's rage has been amplified, and I don't quite get it. Like, this is going to happen every year, folks. And the other part too that made me mad is like how much people are just wanting to fight Curb Street and how mad people are at blowouts. It's like, half of the college football playoff games we've seen have been blowouts. Like, this isn't a new phenomenon. 24 to 34 were double-digit games. Like, this isn't a new development.
Yeah, I mean, college football is in general a blowout sport. These teams aren't created equal. There's not parity is college football wants to be allergic to parity in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So,
and this is like some sort of, I know that you create this big playoff to make it look like they have more opportunity to win a title, but there's still only 4 or 5 teams that can maybe win a title any given year.
This playoff is created for so we can watch more games, so TV can have more inventory,
make more money. Yeah.
But this system in general, Nick, like if you're an 11-1 team, you go 11-1 in a power conference, you're probably getting in.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard for you to get out. And I look at SMU, like they played 9 ACC games, and then then they play TCU and BYU. So 11 of their 13 games were against power conference teams before Selection Sunday. So a lot of people upset at them. I just, you're prisoner of your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
They not only did they do that, but most of their wins were blowouts, right? And then they had 2 road wins over borderline top 25 teams in Duke and Louisville. So like their resume was
fine,
good,
but they just went
good
to
enough
Penn
to get
State and had a pick fest in a game where they couldn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, I just think it's just I think people just don't know how to react to this.
Because, and I think part of it too, Luckett, is there was such a great anticipation for what was to happen, and then you wake up Friday morning and there's snow at Notre Dame Stadium, and you're just like, this is going to be the best ever, and then the games aren't instant classics, and people get upset.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like, how many first round 14 playoff games can you even remember? Because I can think of 3 off the top of my head that were just awesome, bona fide, badass games.
Yeah, most of them involved Ohio State.
Yeah, it was like
Ohio State, Bama.
That upset, yeah.
Ohio State, Clemson, when they lost to Dabo in 19.
That was one that didn't come to mind right away, but yes, that one.
And then Ohio State, Georgia, with the Stetson Bennett hero game.
The one I was thinking of was when Baker and Georgia got into a shootout at the Rose Bowl.
That's probably the best one.
Yeah, that one was awesome. And then last year, Jalen Milroe fumbling in the Rose Bowl, like not being able to take a snap against Michigan. So we just counted off, what, five good first-round games?
Yeah, I just think people, like, blowouts are just going to happen in this sport. But I think they got the teams right. At the end of the day, man, like, Bama went – also, like, people standing for Bama a year after everyone was irate about them getting in.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we feel bad for poor Bama. Like, poor Bama didn't get a fair shake in this selection process. I just think, realignment did a number on this. When they set this playoff, it was supposed to be like the old format, not what we have now. Right. So realignment did a number on that. And these unbalanced schedules, I think, again, at the end of the day, Bama lost to a 6-6 Vanderbilt on the road and a 6-6 Oklahoma on the road. That's just, at the end of the day, that was too much for them to overcome. Specifically, the Oklahoma loss coming on the penultimate weekend of the regular season. And so I think that hurts them. And I think the big thing for this is expansion is 100% coming in this playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I think the results and the feelings of everyone that they're definitely pushing to at least 14 because it's only locked in for 12 for 2 years, this year and next. So 2026 is definitely getting to at least 14. And I think if you look at it, if you're the SEC, why would we want to go to 9 games?
Exactly. And
why would we want to go to 9 games? And the thing I think is really in trouble is these conference championship games. Because if you look at, that was the big loser in all of this to me, was the conference championship games. Just, I think
Penn State got a better draw by not playing.
They delivered some good games, but how much did it help or hurt you at the end of the day? Because Penn State, Oregon, Bama, Texas were already in the field going into those games. And then actually, like, SMU losing that's what got Clemson in.
It got Clemson in.
That's what knocked Alabama out, was SMU losing. And so, like, what are we doing with these games full time? And where is their place? Because they're losing, I think, some luster. Like the crowd at the Clemson SMU game was bad. The crowd at the Big Ten championship was bad.
Yeah, because you got to save your money. Why would you travel to Indy when you know you've got playoff games to go pay to watch?
Yeah, if you're an Oregon fan,
why are you going to fly across the country to go to Indy?
why would I want to go to the Big Ten championship game when I've got a chance to either go see my team play in the Rose Bowl if they win that game, or I could wait and save up to go to either the Cotton or the Orange Bowl, which is a semifinal, or go to the national championship game.
Yeah,
because they got a great chance to get to at least one of those spots.
The only thing that's going to stop them from going away is that the SEC's still has a lot of cachet, and Greg Sankey's like, that's my cash cow. You aren't taking that away. So that's what's going to make that fascinating to follow, because I'm kind of with you in the conference games have been blowouts.
That's the real thing. You talk about seeding. They need that to be automatic to make those really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have a seeding problem.
Yeah.
Now, I don't necessarily mind how they're seeding right now because they're rewarding teams. And what's it matter that Arizona State had a bye? Like, who does that matter to? Like, for honestly, it rewards Texas for being in the SEC and making it to the SEC championship game. They get a home game, they're getting an additional win, and then they have a nice draw, and they're going to get whoever loses that Oregon Ohio State slugfest. But also, it rewards teams if you get the bye. There's value in that because you play one less game. So if you have to go and win 3 games here, you don't have the miles on your body. You get the bye. So I think there's value all the way around in that, specifically when you have to play the conference championship game. Like Ohio State got a break, I think, because they didn't have to play the conference championship game. They got an extra time off, where Penn State didn't. They had to go play the conference championship game. Now, if Penn State's going to go on a run, if they get to the semifinals or championship, they're going to have that extra game on them. And we've never really seen a team play that many games to try to win a national title before.
Be a lot.
Yeah.
I appreciate someone in the chat said that Tom Fornelli had his lock of the day as the under in this game and then flipped at the last second to the over. Nah, that's tough. You got to stick with your gut. Brian says we could care less hearing about bowls in the NFL. We are here to talk Kentucky football. But Brian, I got some bad news for you. Kentucky football isn't playing anytime soon. So you know what? We wanted to talk a little bit about some other things first. We will get to Kentucky football after I tell you about Game Time. Because if you maybe, I don't know, my sisters, they're in the Birmingham area. Maybe they want to go to watch the Birmingham Bowl. Little Vandy, Georgia Tech, old SEC rivalry this afternoon. There's bowl games in Tampa, bowl games all over the country. If you want to get in, use the Game Time app. It's your best place to find tickets for whatever it may be. Bowl games, NBA, NHL, concerts, comedy shows. They got it all at Game Time. And when you visit them online at gametime.co or download the Game Time app and put in promo code KSR, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So go visit Game Time right now, gametime.co, or download the Game Time app, and you're going to get the best tickets delivered directly to your phone with the Game Time app and $20 off your first purchase when you use promo code KSR. Terms apply at gametime.co. Love the Birmingham Bowl because I think this will end up being a good game. I didn't have a hunch one way or another. I couldn't play.
Both these offenses are fun. So
yeah.
I think that, and the defenses aren't great on either side. So we could get some fireworks.
I just didn't know if they would want to be methodical. You know what I mean? That was, I think, my worry.
Vandy as a dog is worrisome, or not worrisome, but that's been a good side all year, because if they get ahead, then that other team could be in trouble. I think the over might be the play here because, again, what I said with both those defenses. But shifting to Kentucky, Nick, I do want to touch on this. Anthony Eason in the chat, 6-6 next year. I want to hear from you in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky goes 6-6. How do you feel? Because I think that would be a good year.
That'd be a great year.
Like if they go 6-6, that is a step forward.
That would be a monumental step forward. I think the hardest part too is just doing the math to get there. Now, that would be a very fun 6-6 season. It would be like
It would have to be like Vanderbilt 6-6 this year.
where
You would have to beat a really good team to get there,
Mhm.
and then in your other games, you're probably really, if you're good enough to do that, I think in your other games you're probably really, really competitive. And then to go 6-6, you're probably going to have some players on the team next in 2026 that you're pretty excited about returning.
Did you the I'm not willing to talk myself into it with this is how they get there and all that. Like I'm just not quite there yet. But that would be a lot of fun. Because we talked about it last week. I think Zach Calzada can be a very fun quarterback for Kentucky. As far as where the portal stuff stands now, 14 signees. Still waiting for some out there with edge and at left tackle. And I think the biggest questions that people have are about left tackle. There was an Auburn left tackle who entered the portal today that made a lot of people's spidey sense tingle. Let's just say I'm good on SEC offensive tackle transfers after the Gerald Mincy experience. Is that fair to say?
For a third SEC school.
Yeah. I mean,
a guy who got pulled, I believe he got pulled from their starting lineup. Percy Lewis did at Auburn.
Yeah, Josh Braun's a little bit different story because he played a lot and the Arkansas ship is sinking. So like everybody's jumping off that boat right now. But so like it's a little bit different than, as you said, like, I mean, Mincy was like the same story where he kind of got pulled halfway through the year and only started half the games. So I'm good on that guy. I don't necessarily think that guy's the answer. But I know a lot of people just want that answer at left tackle, and it's going to be hard to find that one.
Here's the thing here. Percy Lewis, third SEC school. The trend lines aren't great with him as a player, prospect, but Kentucky's getting close to a situation where you're just going to have to take someone. That's kind of what happened with Gerald Mincy last year. They just had to take someone. So you got to – they're in some tricky waters, I think, here with what they do at left tackle. And I'll be interested to see if any names emerge and they get anybody on campus once this dead period ends. I believe January 6th or January 5th is the time you can take visits. And then Kentucky has 11 days once the time you can take visits to the deadline of getting students enrolled for the spring semester at the University of Kentucky. I believe it's January 17th. So you got a small window there. So you got to see what they're going to do because right now, Nick, I believe Malachi would be the starting left tackle in the spring game if they didn't add someone right now. So that's kind of where they are at this point, and we'll have to see where they go from here. But that's the big position that everyone's watching right now is what they do at left tackle because I think they've done a good job addressing the offensive line everywhere else, but left tackle's a big spot. But also what they're trying to do here is really, really difficult. Like four offensive line starters in the portal and getting four good ones, it's hard. It's hard to do, man. Mm-hmm. And I think they've gotten three of them. Two of them, I think you could, like right now, you feel good about them being upgrades to me at left guard with Joshua Braun and at right tackle with Alex Wilschlager.
Mm-hmm.
But you need an upgrade at left tackle potentially, and that's hard to see because some of their targets that I think they were going to be in on Isaiah World from Nevada, Ethan Onyeonwa from Rice. He ended up at Ohio State.
Too big a fish.
World ended up at
was it Oregon?
Oregon.
Yeah.
And Gunnar Hansen was a guy you had a visit scheduled with. Never happened. Florida State wraps him up. The Vandy transfer. So now you're in a situation where, like, what are you going to do here? And that's the biggest, I think, storyline for them right now.
It's the one position you knew that was going to be a challenge going in, and then the first wave happened, and you weren't able to lock one up. It's unfortunate, but we will keep our head on a swivel. I'm a little confused by the dates. Because one of the calendars I saw said January 1. You can take visits if you're a second-year transfer. The other one I saw was January 5th or 6th. So I was a little confused by that.
Does that mean grad transfer?
I thought it was just like if you, yeah, I don't know. It might be outdated too, whatever the website said, because the portal rules keep changing. The JUCO rules change for Diego Pavia and some other guys. So we can
Yeah, and
talk
I
about
think
that.
Percy Lewis is one of those JUCO
Yeah.
guys. That's why he, I think, is eligible to enter the portal now. It's because he got that extra year because of the JUCO injunction.
And that only applies if you're still within the 5 or 6 year window or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And you
Like
spend,
Anthony Crease on Kentucky's roster, Denius Jackson.
mm-hmm.
They get an extra year now.
And that's for one of the Kentucky targets at running back, Rasul Faison. Am I
Yes.
right about that, from Utah Valley?
Yeah, Rashul Faison, I believe. Utah State.
Utah State.
Yeah. He's a class of 2019 high school, so he's the same age as Zach Calzada.
Oh,
So he's been
nice.
in college football a long time. And running back's another position, Nick, where they've addressed it, but they also only have 4 scholarship players there. So to me, I think they're looking for a potential like Demi Sumo Karngbe, someone who has some experience, but he's not going to come in here and start right away. But you could potentially sell on having a role in your offense.
We mentioned, just while we're on running backs, Matt Rule had some interesting comments about Kentucky running back Dante Dowdell, because it was a pretty quick transfer. Like in most cases, he hops into the portal, he's at Kentucky, bada boom, he's a Wildcat. And I thought it was very interesting that one Matthew Rule had to get on a soapbox about tampering. I just, it's kind of weird, look at how it's never, I'm never tampering. It's always the other people who are tampering. Even when we're going to bring in a dozen players, we didn't tamper with any of them. We talked to none of them before they entered the portal. Uh, it's very unusual to me, because here's the other part too. Like he said that, if you've noticed, he's like the only one who's talked about it openly this cycle, because everybody's tampering now. That's just how this works. It's become the norm. It's standard practice.
Yeah, I think he was more so trying to take a shot at the system, but how the words came out, it made it sound like it was a shot at Kentucky for tampering. Now, he said that before they landed Dane Key, because this was from a press conference I pulled last week. If you haven't seen it, I've got the full clip on my Twitter account, and then we've got it up at KSR.com as well. So obviously it looks worse after they get Dane Key.
Dane Key. Right.
And everyone, and I mentioned everyone is tampering. It's just I think he was more taking a shot at the system, but it was how it came out. It was definitely sounded like he was taking a shot
because
at Kentucky for and he was I had Kyle Travis, one of my buddies, quote tweeted it and said, this is like politely snitching right here. This is like the polite way to snitch, which definitely sounds that way. And so to me, I think he was, obviously it comes off as sour grapes, but I think he was more taking a shot at the system. It just didn't come off that way because you're right. Like they're tampering. They wouldn't have this transfer class where they got Williams Nwaneri, Dane Key, Nazia Hunter from Cal. They wouldn't have this transfer portal class unless they were tampering.
He had a do not contact tag on him. Like he was going to Nebraska before he entered the portal too. But it's just his overall sentiment was that players know their offer before they hit the portal, and they're like, I got to take it. And I'm sure that is frustrating for coaches, but there's a lot of things right now that are frustrating coaches. This is just another byproduct of it. It did sound rich, like when we shared it, a couple days after they land Dane Key, who Georgia was the leader like the whole time for Key. I thought I was very amused by all of the rumors that he would return to Kentucky. That made no sense. I think it's a bit of a risk from Mr. Key to take a chance on Dylan Raiola and Holgo in a league. But at the same time, he was going to have to take a risk with what's happening to Carson Beck and his elbow, his UCL injury, right? Like, who knows how long that's going to keep him out. And that Mike Bobo offense it's been a Mike Bobo offense. So he wasn't exactly lining up the most consistent quarterback plays as his options, but he did get lined up with some of the biggest spenders in the portal at the wide receiver position. So I can't blame him for cashing in big here. And, like I I could understand how he could be convinced in it. Like there's worse gambles to take. Like I've made many worse bets, but it is more of a
Oh, make
bet.
some this week.
Yeah. But it is a bigger bet than I thought he would. Like I thought he would seek out more of a sure thing offensively.
Yeah, just looking at it from my point of view from 3,000 feet. Okay. Nebraska is a proud program, got money, as they're proving, willing to spend. Year 3 for Matt Rule, big year. Just changed offensive coordinators and kind of almost a desperate move to bring in Holgorsen when he did. Year 2 didn't go great. They need to win here. If things don't go well, Raiola probably transfers after this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a huge year for Nebraska, I think. And then you look at the other teams, Ole Miss, Georgia, Nebraska was kind of in the running for Dane Key. Nebraska has the most proven quarterback at this point.
Yes.
Raiola, former 5-star recruit, started last year, had a good season for a true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Where Georgia, you still don't know what Gunnar Stockton looks like, what they're going to do at quarterback. Ole Miss, bringing in Austin Simmons off the bench. Don't know what really that is going to look like. So you add in Nebraska's kind of desperation. They're probably, I would say, bidding pretty high here for Dane Key. And then the quarterback combination. If things go well for Raiola, he's a first-round pick. You see the talent with him.
Mm-hmm.
You team him up with Dana Holgorsen, who's had good offenses. So I think when you kind of add all these things together, I think it makes sense.
Right. Just a little like there's a little bit more unknown there, but like
and he can be the true number one receiver. If Raiola has a big year, that means Dane Key has a big year.
He finished his Kentucky career 5th in all-time receiving yards, pulling a reverse Wan'Dale Robinson. So if it works out,
yeah, he is the player to be named later in the Wan'Dale Robinson, Greg Hart, Courtney Love, Braylon Hurd, Dante Dowdell trade. They, as a kicker, Kentucky sent to kill shorts to Lincoln.
You alluded to the big piece earlier, the big fish that Vince Marrow is going at, his latest project. It's on the defensive side of the ball. We caught one of it earlier this morning on Kentucky Sports Radio. Mike's Grace, right? I think I'm saying that right. A former Princeton Cincinnati product. That's where the connection is there. He was a certified ass kicker playing on the edge for the South Dakota. They're not the Jackrabbits. That's South Dakota State. South Dakota Bearcats? South Dakota.
They are not the Bearcats. I looked this up earlier.
It's like a
I
paw
will pull
print.
that up.
Grizzlies. No. It's Montana. Oh, gosh.
I'm pulling it up. Just hold on just a second.
Chat's going to be killing us right now.
Dakota State's the Jackrabbits. In South Dakota, the Coyotes. That's right.
Coyotes.
Shout out Bud Kilmer.
They had an awesome year. 11-3, went to the semifinals of the FCS.
Play in the Dakota Dome. I bet that place rocks in Vermilion, South Dakota.
And he was incredible. Had over 60 tackles, was top 10 in tackles for loss, 19.5, top 15, 20 in sacks with 9.5, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, had a scoop and score. He was named Missouri Valley Defensive Player of the Year, and now he's entering the transfer portal after his redshirt sophomore season.
Yeah.
And Kentucky's
Missouri Valley is the SEC of FCS2. That is the best of the best in that conference.
In that division, yeah. And he was awesome. This is a guy, too, like that you mentioned on the board. It was funny. You had your notes up, and it was like right as I'm sharing that they're in on this guy. It's like they could use a 3-4 true defensive end. This guy is that true 3-4 defensive end that would fill a need. And as somebody alluded to in the chat, there isn't a ton of star power. This could get you close to star power. This guy was a badass last year, and you could see him being a badass at the SEC level. Even if he is maybe he checks. He doesn't look as long to me when I watch him on tape, but dude's got some juice out there on the edge.
Yeah, I think when I mention star power, what I mean is like you've got to have some guys that can be at their position be one of the best players in the conference. Kentucky's never going to have a team full of those guys, but you got to have a couple to be what you want to be. Well, Kentucky's been at their best under Stoops. They've had that, right? Like Benny Snell, one of the best running backs. Drake Jackson, one of the best centers. Logan Stenberg, one of the best guards.
Josh Allen, Mike Edwards.
Right.
Yeah.
On and on and on. They've had guys like that throughout this tenure. And when you look at that's why we were so excited, I think, about this past season, Nick, was because of that talent. You saw guys that could be some of the best players at their position. Derek Jackson, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, Deion Walker, Max Hairston, Dane Key, Barry Brown. You had guys that you were really high on. Even 2 years ago, Ray Davis was one of the best. He kind of carried them on offense. He was one of so you got to have guys like that, and that's one of my concerns with this team is they don't really have that on paper right now. And if you don't have that, that makes you have a small window to begin with, and that just decreases your window to me. But to this guy right here, Nick, just look at the defensive line room, okay? Like, who's starting for them next year? Josiah Hayes is starting at nose. You know, at one of the defensive line spots next to him is going to be Khalil Saunders.
Mm-hmm.
But who's starting after that?
You're leaning a lot on 24 guys.
You need Tavian Gadsden, Kendrick Gilbert to step up. You need Gerard Smith to step up. You need Brian Robinson. Where is he at after a redshirt season? But you need a starter at that Trayvon Ripka spot, that kind of 3-4 defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
And who's that going to be right now? You don't really have. I think Jaden Williams you're bringing him in, but I think he's more of a defensive tackle. Play, I think, kind of platoon with Saunders at that spot. But you need somebody to step in at that spot. I think Gerard Smith down the line could play that position. But is he ready right now? I think Brian Robinson can play that position, but it doesn't seem like they're ready right now. In this name's escaping me, trying to still get it down. McQueese Grace he was an ass kicker at South Dakota. The metrics were really strong. He was the best defensive player in the best conference, 17.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, and he was good as a redshirt freshman. So this isn't just a 1 year out of nowhere. He kind of stacked good years on top of each other. He's a guy who looks like a potential NFL player. I still need to watch the tape, but a little that I've seen of him, you see some of the pass rush potential with him, and he's got some pop against the run. So there's a lot to like here, and I think him and Williams together, I think they potentially could upgrade them from Kentucky from a pass rushing standpoint. Pass rush has been an issue. They need more pass rush production. Williams put that on tape at Wyoming, and then you see some of the numbers, the raw numbers from Grace. He's obviously done some stuff at South Dakota, playing for a top 5 team in FCS this past year. This would be a big get. Like, he's a plug-and-play starter to me. No doubt. 2 years of eligibility remaining. He would be a big get. So this is a big name to pop up on the radar. Mm-hmm. Mississippi State's got a visit locked in. Ohio State sniffing around.
Yeah.
So Kentucky's going to be important to get him on campus, but he's a guy, again, this is Fitzmerrill time.
Yeah.
Play the music. Play the big dog bark, if you will. Cincinnati kid, connections there. Get him on campus. If they get him on campus, I think they got a great chance to get him signed, sealed, and delivered. And I think he would be an
exciting development for the defense.
Yes, absolutely.
That could certainly use it. It's hard to really narrow our focus in now because we're still in the early stages. Visits haven't been set up, so we'll see where their last bit of transfer portal capital is directed in the next week or so. But not a whole lot of movement in the next couple hours. Instead, we're going to be locked into these bowl games. It's looking like a slobber knocker so far. Look at Haynes King versus Diego Pavia. It's rainy down in Birmingham, so we'll need the floodgates to proverbially open for that over to get home. But I jumped on your Texas Tech over 28 points. I'm kind of liking A&M minus 3.5 against USC.
I am going to revisit Texas Tech alternate line because Arkansas has lost like their whole team.
Yes. Like their whole football team.
And Texas Tech has not. And Texas Tech has a lot of momentum from the portal right now. And Texas Tech has scored 50 in consecutive games going into this game. And they're favored by 1.5. So I could definitely see a potential blowout potential in this matchup. So alternate line, maybe getting somewhere north of 7, it's probably going to have some nice odds there. So that might be something I I visit here maybe after a beer or two down here in Jacksonville.
um, I'm looking forward to the Pop Tarts Bowl because who doesn't look forward to the Pop Tarts Bowl? I mean, it's an electric atmosphere. Um, Iowa State, Rocco Becht, and Cam Ward versus Miami. I'm tempted with Iowa State in that one just because even though that is in the Matt Campbell window, he's been better in that Matt Campbell window as of late.
Yeah, what's the total in that game?
I'm trying to pull it up. Some of these apps, they get a little frustrating to me because it's like I don't want like when I hit more wagers, take me to the games.
Iowa State's defense is not great, and if Miami's guys are playing, they're scoring points. So like Miami team total over might be the move.
57.5. Ooh, and Miami's up to a 4.5 point favorite there too.
So you're getting them. So that would be 31-27 essentially. So the team total should be like 31.5 for Miami. I would like that over. If all their guys, I would have to double check, make sure their dudes are playing. But if they are, you could see Miami get pushing for 40 points in that game.
I can also see Missouri just easily covering against Iowa, but there's part of me too that's like, ooh, do you trust Drinking as a short favorite over that Iowa defense? Like, are they?
Yeah.
Does Brady Cook got one more in him?
Is Caleb Johnson playing for Iowa? That's my question. Because Sullivan's back, the quarterback. At least they tweeted a picture of him this week, so I'm assuming he's back.
Sit out and declare for the NFL draft. So no Caleb Johnson.
If he's out, then I'd probably like Missouri.
Yeah.
If he was playing, I think Iowa could be considered a live dog in that game. But yeah, it's also like the same jersey game.
I know that's gonna be weird. We need them to wear some like alt uniforms in that one. Do you like any big dogs in the playoff? Because there's some big numbers. 13.5, Texas, Arizona State. That feels like that one. Here. I don't know why I want to talk myself into that one. I just love.
Let me see. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to run on the ball on that Texas front, man. So I can't. It's hard for me to get there.
It's also hard to see what those teams like. I feel like you would rather have momentum from that opening round win than it be sitting on a bye right now. Especially if you're Oregon, right? Like you just saw Ohio State do what they did. That one feels like that's going to be that has potential to be an instant classic if Will Howard goes out and plays like he did a week ago.
Yeah. I like Ohio State just because I think it's going to be hard to beat them twice if you're Oregon. And I do wonder, like, sometimes in the NFL playoffs, Nick, the team that gets a game under their belt and then plays a team with a bye. You see the team with a bye have a little bit more rust. Like, could that play in Ohio State's favor here? So I do like Ohio State there.
It's you say that, but like, do we think James Franklin can cover another big number? Like,
yeah. I just worry with Arizona State. I just don't know if they match up at all with Texas. What's that What's that number again?
13.5. Shoot.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a high. That's probably a stay away for me. And then what's the Boise State Penn State
11.
number?
Penn State's 11-point favorite. And there's part of you that thinks that they can do it because how is like Ashton Genty's awesome, but how many times can you run it against this Penn State defense?
Yeah, I wouldn't bet against Penn State there either. Yeah. I think we could see more blowouts. To be honestly, I think we're going to get blowouts in Texas, Arizona State, Penn State, Boise State, and then I think Oregon, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia will come down to the wire. That would be my early prediction.
Georgia was opened as a dog, and then now they're 2-point favorites with Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. Have you seen his truck? His truck was getting some play on social media.
Yeah, that was sweet. I did see that this morning.
Yeah, pretty awesome truck. Go check out Gunnar Stockton's truck. It's pretty neat. He played pretty well in that SEC championship game when he had to come in the second half. But it was, if you're a Georgia fan, you got to be just like, Kirby, really? It's like Hail Mary, and this is how we get our starting quarterback injured. Like, come on.
Here's why I like Georgia in this game. Stockton adds an element with his legs. ETN's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You saw that Georgia O-line kind of take over that Texas game. Notre Dame just lost probably their best run support player. They're 90th nationally in rushing success rate, defense. Indiana really couldn't take advantage of that. I think Georgia will. This is a total slobber knocker. I mean, it's very much two former defensive coordinators have built a team that they like would dream about coaching with these great defenses. I just think you're going to see teams exchange blows. Both quarterbacks can run the ball, so that's going to be an element in this game. But I mean, this one feels like the first. If any of these teams get to 20, that probably feels like the game.
44 is the total.
Yeah, and this game is in New Orleans.
Correct.
Them dogs going to be howling down there on Bourbon Street, No
offense to our friends at Notre Dame, but Georgia fans strike me as a little bit more comfortable on Bourbon Street than Notre Dame fans.
I think Georgia probably figures out a way. I don't know how long they could keep it going, but I get the hunch they probably figure out a way here. But I do expect this one to just be a total like 6-3 at halftime feels on the table. 3-0 at halftime, either side feels on the table. So first half under might be the play here, or first quarter under in this game, because it feels like both these teams are going to come out and just totally, we know this is going to be a 12-round fight. Let's not throw all our best punches here in the first or second round. Let's kind of fill each other out. That definitely feels on the table here.
Well, Vandy's down inside the 10 for the battle of the Georgia Tech Vanderbilt cowbell. We got some trophies on the line, some hardware on the line. We're going to go enjoy some postseason football. We hope you enjoyed this edition of 11 Personnel. And we're getting a little silly today, but it's the holiday season. Why not get a little silly?
And as far as the portal stuff goes, it's slow drip from here moving forward. Things will start to pick up around New Year's when visit starts to get locked in. And then once the 5th rolls around, so after Kentucky plays Florida in basketball on the 4th, once the 5th and 6th rolls around, then I think we could see some chaos kind of ensue there for a week. But most of the work is done now.
Yeah.
Like a large majority. Yeah, it's done. And now it's just putting the finishing touches on this first big window. And then the spring is a lot smaller, but you can get some stuff done in the spring. But most of the work is done now, and we'll see who Kentucky can get on campus. Obviously, McQueese Gray stands out as a big name here, but also can they get a left tackle? Does anyone else emerge? And that's what we'll be monitoring here moving forward.
If you need something else to monitor, Stephen Peake made a great video about Kentucky football. He was talking about this months ago when we were on our way to Ole Miss the last go-around. The editing's great. I love the strings being pulled around. It's just awesome. So if you haven't watched it yet, take 12 minutes of your time. You won't regret it. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Have a happy new year. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. This has been 11 Personnel.
See you next